questions. I guess how much has the sort of roadmap changed, Vitalik, from when you first thought up Ethereum to how you thought it was going to be developed to now changing to the whole new beacon chains?
It's changed a huge amount. So, like, the first version of proof of stake that I came up with, that I published in January 2014, it actually technically was not even secure. It had liveness failures, and since then we've just done a huge amount of kind of research, rethinking, and figuring out that proof of stake actually is kind of possible, and with kind of what trade-offs. In 2015, I wrote this big, huge paper on scalable blockchain design that ended up actually being pretty close to what we've implemented now on a super high level, but there's still a lot of details that needed to be figured out. We've spent years trying to make kind of Casper FFG work. We've spent a long time trying to make Casper or sharding work on top of the existing Ethereum chain. So we've definitely gone through like at least 4 or 5 iterations of the basic idea, but especially over the last year, it's solidified a huge amount.
Well, a lot of things seem to be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's common for most scientific enterprise.
Mm-hmm. I might ask one. My name is James O'Donoghue from Crypto Finder. What is, I guess, for the people that have maybe stopped and fallen off a little bit off the bandwagon over the last 18 months or 12 months, what's the core message that you want to get out to them right now about where Ethereum is right now and why they should bring their attention back into it and start playing around again with what you're building?
Like, why should people bring their attention back into Ethereum?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it lean?
Yeah, I'm sure like core developers are still there. I agree with that, but I think that maybe the wider public has lost interest.
I mean, there's definitely been a reduction of interest in just all blockchain projects, because especially people who are just following cryptocurrencies for the price, like stopped following them because the price stopped moving in a happy direction for a while. I think people in general, people that are building things and have been building things for a long time are just continuing to build things. And right now, there's more things to build with and build on top of than there ever have been before, and I expect there to be even more over the next few months. So, for a developer, the experience is becoming more and more interesting very quickly.
For example, at the Sydney hackathon, you start seeing, instead of people trying to build components to build things with, you start seeing relatively sophisticated projects coming out of a 2-day hackathon, because there are so many building blocks that you can start piecing together to do interesting things. So I think in production, we're definitely hitting an inflection point with respect to the applications that we're seeing and the kind of interesting usage of these applications.
Fantastic, thanks.
Can I ask a question? So I can see there are a lot of companies actually now starting to use your base technology for real business use cases, which is great, because I guess it shows that Ethereum is now maturing into not just a cryptocurrency, but actually a real technology that's being used to solve real world business problems. I've seen a few supply chain companies, and I've been to lots of discussions in terms of how that works. And in Australia, there's quite a few businesses actually that are focusing on supply chain, like UCOT, like Clan Blockwise. CBA, for example, have used your base software to transport cotton from Australia to China and actually maintain its provenance along the way on your blockchain. What are the best case uses that you've seen in industry of your base software that you think really does actually provide real transparency, but fantastic use cases for business that makes them more efficient and basically makes it better for the consumer to see that they're actually getting real goods instead of fake goods?
Well, Spank Chain, of course.
Yeah. I mean, on the most interesting stuff right now that's really hitting people might not even be the institutional stuff at the beginning. So, for example, these smart contract parametric insurance projects that are starting to pop up. Like there's Hurricane Guard. That now there's apparently one out of Sri Lanka. They're basically just using smart contracts to give people the most simplest kind of insurance, which would just say, if there's a flood here, you get a payout. If there's not enough rain here, you get a payout. And that's this very specific kind of product that seems to be just really easy to build using blockchains and smart contracts, and possibly just much easier than it is now. And it seems like people are starting to actually use it.
Well, stable coins. I think that's one that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like that's me. I actually has there ever been an algorithmically stable thing? Actually, I guess there has been stable things before, but not a currency.
Yeah.
Just to follow up that insurance question, do you see who's taking the best approaches for oracles, even for something basic like that?
Oracleize is interesting. Like, they've managed to extend their system and make it more secure by adding out of trusted hardware components in a couple of places. So they have this nice security model that basically means that in most cases there's like several things that need to break for the Oracle to stop working, which is really cool.
Rhombus .network is aimed to be cool, the Oracle company, and it's coming out of Consensus. So I think they just kind of recently started. So that's another. I mean, I guess I don't think they've actually released something yet, but I know that's what they aim to become.
Have you worked with any government or legal organisations in different countries to see that once smart contracts start to become something of the norm and something that businesses want to use, that your software is actually applicable to the laws of that country? So firstly, are there any countries in the world that are using smart contracts legally now, so it's actually a thing and they approve them and they're embracing it? And if there are countries that aren't using it, what are the roadblocks that they see, and do you think you'll have to change some of the software on your platform to accommodate their individual laws in those jurisdictions?
And Ethereum software is like very general purpose, and there is a mathematical principle that says that, and if when you're talking about compute programming languages, things that are general purpose enough are all kind of equivalents to each other in some sense. So anything you can write in one language, you can write in another language. So we don't really have that much kind of room to build something other than what we're building. But in terms of making it easier for smart contracts to interface with existing jurisdictions, I mean, we've talked to some governments about like specific things like token sales, and like they've given guidances on those things. We've done. I know there's projects in the Ethereum ecosystem that are trying to kind of combine, like, use smart contracts for things like shares of companies, and then basically come up with kind of legal links so the smart contracts can actually kind of transfer enforceable claims to like shares of some company. There's definitely a lot of work happening in terms of like making those legal interfaces work, but it's.
There's also the Materium approach, where so if you want to have there be an interface between the smart contract and the physical world, you hire a law, you bind a lawyer, so you transfer the physical asset to a legal firm, and then the legal firm signs a contract saying whatever the blockchain says we will do. So if the blockchain says we will transfer it, then they will transfer it, and there's sort of so that way you kind of make the legal firm's actions kind of like an appendage, kind of grafted onto the smart contract.
Yeah,
and
it's great to see, like, the police force is actually using it to store evidence, because obviously over the years you've heard of evidence files being, they go missing or whatever else. But blockchain's a great way to make sure that what is found is actually logged straight away and can't be tampered with.
Well, glad to help.
Yeah.
As a bit of a follow-up to that, ZK snarks with Ethereum have primarily, I see, been talked about as a way to increase transactions per second, but obviously the privacy technology is an important component of that. How much of a focus is it to actually bring that privacy technology to allow for shielded transactions into Ethereum? And if that is becoming a bit of a priority, what concern is there about, I guess, legal concerns? Because we have seen some jurisdictions come out saying that they are against privacy-enabled coins.
There's definitely quite a way to go before strong privacy can really work well, and part of this is just inherent limitations of the Ethereum 1.0 chain. So the big one that I talk about is that if he wants to just have a mixer where you you have one person with two addresses A and B, they send a coin in from A and they take a coin out from B. Well, to do the transaction from B that grabs the coin out, you have to have Ether to pay transaction fees. Where does that Ether come from? Well, if it comes from A, then you've just linked yourself again. So it's definitely not a kind of very short-term thing at this point, and there definitely are teams that are working on it.
I have a question for Wei Wang. As an Ethereum core researcher, what are you currently looking into, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, so currently we have multiple client apps that are working on the phase 0 implementation. So now I think our short-term goal will be stabilized and stand to freeze the current spec as soon as possible. Yeah, and also for the midterm, there's the phase 1 stake is ongoing and work in progress.
I got a question from Japan's CoinPost. Recently, what are your thoughts about regarding Justin Sun's recent comment that they want to work with the Ethereum community?
I'm sorry. Can you? Sorry, I stopped listening after this. So can you repeat it? Sorry.
So what are your thoughts regarding Justin Sun's recent comment about the working with Ethereum developers? Do you have any comments on that?
Do you have a longer quote?
Yeah, we don't.
He said that you guys are teaming up.
Are we?
After Ethereum Classic.
Yeah, well, that's
Are we? That's so interesting.
So
See, you're the media. You're the ones that are supposed to be telling us these things. It's know we're teaming up.
I mean, we have to. I mean, we're. Okay, so I mean, it's news to us. I mean,
Really?
I mean, it's possible we have committed some collaboration with Tron.
I don't think we have.
I mean, I don't think we have either. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, like maybe
We
someone
like
would
collaborating with people, but we're unaware of this collaboration.
Better future.
for a better future.
So it's just a one-way kind of thing at the moment.
I mean, like.
You're telling us.
There's no reason to publicly piss on Tron, so let's not do it.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah, it's like. Actually, okay, I will say one thing just in Sun. Like, I mean, the man's an incredible marketer. Like he's incredible. Like I must admit, if Justin Sun was a less compromised asset, I would love to have him as chief marketing officer for Ethereum. Like the man's a marketing genius. I mean, I would make him CEO of my company, but no, CMO, hell's yeah. But credit where credit's due.
Cool. Thanks for that.
With the future upgrades, I think Bitcoin's taken this slow and steady approach. I think we're seeing it's hard to get big hard forks across the line in large cap coins, and Ethereum's been sort of move fast and break things. Is that sort of changing now that there's more at stake? And is that why we've got the Beacon chain now? And with the 1.0 chain, do you see frequent small hard forks? Or is that still going to risk splitting the chain if we save up and there's lots of VLPs at once? Or?
There's definitely a movement on the 1.0 chain to do more frequent small hard forks to just kind of get into a rhythm. There are a number of just smaller technical challenges that they want to tackle, and so I hope that we can break our. I think it took maybe a year and a half between the last hard fork and this one. I think break that slowness. With respect to the Beacon chain and ETH 2.0, the approach right now is to move quickly and to, before we get to phase 2, which is when user level activity comes in, move pretty rapidly and build out the core architecture. I think when you do have the user level activity and the increased user level activity, it's much more, there's a ton more maintenance on the system that you have to have, and there's more political maneuvering to get changes in. But I think, at least for the next good chunk of time, we'll be able to move pretty rapidly on the ETH 2.0 stuff.
We've seen different projects moving away from Ethereum. They're moving to EOS and Stellar and Tron. Do you find this trend worrying?
I went to ETH Denver, which had like over 1,000 or over 2,000 hackers. I'm not super embedded in some of the other communities. I know projects do what makes sense at the time when they're making decisions, but the ecosystem around Ethereum, I think, is, especially on the developer side, is like larger and healthier than ever.
I mean, and we don't need to eat like everything. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, so I remember I actually advised someone maybe like a few months ago to actually go Stellar instead of Ethereum. And yeah, no, I mean, it's like not every trade. Oh, so Ethereum sort of errs on the side of sort of maximal flexibility. If you only want to send tokens around and like really just fungible tokens, really that's it. I mean, we're kind of overkill. Yeah, so if you just want to send tokens around really, really fast, you probably don't really need us, and that's not offensive.
But if you want to trade them on Uniswap, you're always welcome to come back.
Of course, of course.
I think to lead off that, we've seen a recent rise in the use of IEOs and their popularity. Do you agree that it's not actually the worst thing to see that hype disappear when it's using the functionality of to raise capital, where now you're left with the community that actually want to build dApps and build on top of Ethereum?
Having that hype reduction is like definitely a good thing for people that actually want to build. IEOs I'm like more down on, like basically because they seem like just like ICOs but more centralized.
Yep.
I've got a technical question from my colleague, so I just have to read this out. It says, recently Jihan Wu, co-founder of Bitmain, said that they can easily develop ASICs to counter-program POW algorithm to Ethereum. If so, how should the community take measure after the actual implementation of program POW?
I mean, at this point, like, proof of stake is on the horizon, so proof of work is not really a long-term thing in any case. So I'm even skeptical that even if they can make prog POW ASICs that are even like 3 or 5 times faster, that it's a good business proposition for them. And it's like by the time they've made them and they've pushed out, like phase 0 might have launched already or something.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question about program proof of work. When Monero forked out ASICs recently, I think the hash rate dropped about 60% from memory. If we have people starting to lock up ETH in the new chain, and then that hash rate drop substantially, we saw ETC get 51% attack. So is there any point where you get worried that main chain might start to become vulnerable?
So as activity starts happening on the proof of stake chain, and as we have this potential idea of using the proof of stake chain to help secure the proof of work chain. So as that happens, that'll definitely be, I think, used as a reason to reduce the proof of work rewards. At which point, like it definitely could come a point at which the proof of work chain does get 51% attacked. But when that happens, the system will have already been designed so that doesn't matter much, and it's the proof of stake part that matters more.
I think something that legacy businesses in today's world have as a benefit is that they're able to go through their brainstorming and their research and their product iteration without having the public involved in that conversation. And I think that affords them a lot of benefit where they're able to resolve these things before they go and place it on the pedestal for everyone to critique. How do you guys, obviously not in that same situation where everything you're doing is transparent and open, how do you stay focused and cut out the noise that I can only imagine is quite loud?
There's a wide, like, although our processes are incredibly transparent, there's all sorts of like phases of process in that, like, we have a number of conversations amongst ourselves, and then we publish ideas on the internet, and then we have specifications and people are commenting. And so even though it is radically transparent, the iterative process, I think, allows us to manage the complexity from relatively well. But yeah, building what we're trying to build in the public eye, I think is one of the reasons it is so exciting, is that no one's, I think, ever tried to do this before with all the public scrutiny and input.
So in the previous hackathon, and we see dozens of the apps and developed by the participant teams. And do you have some of the key principles in the judging process? Are there any key principles in judging different apps? Who's the winner and who's?
No, we don't pick winners. No, I mean, the Linux Foundation doesn't decide which text editor you should use. No, I mean, we just make the OS, and you make. I mean, sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
In the hackathon, what are the rules?
Oh, for those.
Who gets to win? What principles are you looking for?
So it depends on the hackathon. Often they'll outline the principles. I think the hackathon in Sydney the other day is very scalability focused, although the winner was not scalability focused. But it was layer 1 scalability, layer 2 scalability, completeness, and usability and like potential for adoption. So those were the metrics for the Sydney one, but it ranges.
Usually those things are decided by the funder, right?
This time I guess Crypto Chicks outlined it, but then they'll have like subcategories of awards that are particularly funded. That would, but in terms of judging dApps, I don't know. There's all sorts of ways to judge the dApps.
In terms of, when I've been a judge before, the judge is actually given, and the judge is closer to like a machine, and the judge is told, what to make it, and you're given a different sheet for every hackathon. So it's the organizers that I guess decide that.
We see right now some really big changes coming for Ethereum, and so I wanted to ask a bit about governance, because essentially Ethereum is off-chain governance, right? There's the developers in the community who are getting on calls and deciding important things. How has that governance actually worked in practical terms, trying to come to these really important decisions that affect a multi-billion-dollar blockchain? And when we move to Ethereum 2.0, has there actually been any discussions about on-chain governance?
I think it's important to keep in mind, first of all, that like almost all changes that are kind of technical improvements that are good for Ethereum do just pass through uncontroversially, right? So if you look at, say, the Homestead hard fork, the Constantinople upgrade, the Byzantium upgrade, even the time when we got DOS attacked back in 2016 and we had to roll out spec and implement a hard fork all in the course of 6 days, all of those things were not really kind of impeded by governance issues. Governance has so far only been a problem for, I'd say, a relatively small set of kind of controversial issues. So the first one was obviously the DAO fork, and that split the chain in half. And then the second one would be there were 2 issuance reductions, one from 5 to 3 ETH, the other from 3 to 2 ETH, and for that there were some community polls, there were some like Ether coin votes, and it was just kind of clear which way the wind was blowing, so to speak. And then there was fund recovery, which kind of the same thing happened, going in the no direction. So it's definitely possible that there would exist some kind of wedge issue that manages to kind of divide the community in like exactly the right way to kind of cause maximum damage, but so far we haven't come close to that.
I've got a question for you. So as a team of developers, what was your punch a cloud sort of moment this year where you actually, I suppose, developed something that you thought, this is going to change the way we're doing things, or this is actually going to, we thought we were going to have one path, but actually this is brilliant, let's go in this direction. What was it, and what was that moment, and then what did it change?
Definitely in June we had 2 parallel workflows for upgrading the Ethereum chain, hybrid Casper proof of work and sharding via the sharding manager contract. And after we went down some of those paths and saw some technical limitations, and as research continued and matured, we deprecated both of these work streams for a radical new path. And so I think it was tough, but also very, very exciting, because it opened up all sorts of new doors with respect to scaling and decentralization. So that's the big obvious one for sure. There's a lot of little wins here and there though.
Another big one was, so Danny's talking about the introduction of the beacon chain as being separate from the Ethereum 1 chain. The other big one is separation of the state layer and the data layer, which it seems no other blockchain is doing, but it feels very, very natural once you realize it.
Also, recently you talked about some blockchain technologies, the South Korean legislation, so that was a nice topic. Do you have any other country that you're trying to share those ideas, like what you guys did in South Korea? Any other countries that are going to list?
Are going to do what?
Sorry?
And any other countries that are going to do what?
So any other countries to share your insight about the blockchain technology?
I don't know. We've talked to Singapore a lot, and we've talked to Taiwan a few times. So we've been to what else is there?
Talk to Putin.
That was yeah. I mean, I go around and talk to quite a lot, quite a few of them. I mean, most of the time it's like most of the governments are still in kind of trying to figure out what to do stage.
Have you had any contact with the Australian government? I mean, I guess given that you're here this year, did any of them ever contact you? And also because you're in Australia, and this is an Australian press conference.
Oh, do they want to come by?
What's
We can
your,
talk to them.
What's your group? I suppose this is a question for any of you. What's your opinion on how Australia is in terms of where we're placed in terms of supporting Ethereum, and how advanced, not advanced are we? And be honest.
You have a few really solid teams and community members with respect to the Ethereum community. With respect to regulation around cryptography, there's definitely some issues there and some concerns. I'm as I've talked to the locals, they're not as concerned as I was led to believe I should be.
With Ethereum Classic, I sort of see it as a chain that was being kept alive by a few individuals that was going to try and make a resurgence once you guys moved to proof of stake, but now you guys have sort of befriended Ethereum Classic. So is that, I just want to know more about that relationship, and do you think that's a threat where more people will say everything's chugging along pretty well, let's stay on Ethereum Classic as proof of work, and just want to explore that a bit more.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Okay, wait. So what exactly is the question again?
Yeah, I guess I just wonder, you guys worried at all that when you moved to the proof of stake, and a lot of people say that,
proof of stake's great, man. like proof of stake's great. No, I mean, it's really.
Well, why is it? Yeah, I guess why is Ethereum Classic around, and then why would you guys sort of partner up with them?
Why we partner with them? They have a bit more purist sensibilities, but they're not incompetent. When they publish software, maybe about 34% of the time, like, hey, that's kind of handy. I'm really glad that that's compatible with us. Thanks, guys. And I guess their compatibility is nice, and they occasionally make nice things. I guess, I don't know. I'm not really that. What else to go with it?
Yeah, that's all right.
I do think Ethereum Classic would probably have a little more trouble as they get larger. In general, like the larger you get, you have to get a little more pragmatic, just because the real world impinges upon you more. And so I'd probably say they have probably a little bit more freedom to be ideologues because of their size. I actually predict that if they ever actually start getting substantially large, the character of their project will probably change a lot.
I might ask a bit of a theoretical question. What do you guys think is the lesser of two evils? So a world with complete privacy where governments have no insight into financial transactions and the privacy of what people are up to, or the opposite where they have all of that level of insight and can make the commitment to their communities that they can protect them?
In the totally dark world, the surveillance cameras like the one back there still work?
Good point.
Yeah, I think it's clear that kind of, in general, the tide is shifting toward more and more of the things that we do being kind of publicly visible to more and more actors. And so I think it's, at least my view is that, especially kind of given that backdrop, preserving privacy in the digital world is becoming more and more important.
With marketing, we sort of joked about Tron before, but do you see, once you guys get fully developed, do you think you put more effort into branding and marketing and getting real businesses to use Ethereum? Is it all just kind of natural adoption that you're hoping to happen?
I think we can certainly do better in communication. Not necessarily, we're not looking to be really intense into marketing, but there are some internal efforts to just communicate our successes a bit better. Even just updating like what what the dev teams and things are up to.
And we're doing these.
So your revenue model is purely gas pricing at the moment when people use your platform?
We have no revenue.
Oh, okay.
We've never had revenue.
Well, there was that one time.
We also do have the t-shirt store, so that also makes revenue.
Is there a plan to make revenue in the future?
Well, for the foundation, realistically, nothing other than like selling T-shirts, selling conference tickets, possibly a bit from staking. For the community, there have been these discussions around like possibly using like issuance to fund some kind of DAO that supports projects, but that seems like still way kind of too early to start seriously considering at this point.
Yeah, just because a lot of global corporations are going to start using your technology, and you know, even if you didn't want to keep the money for yourselves, you could actually, you know, take a clip of it and give it back to, you know, for the good of, you know, enabling, you know, countries that, you know, don't have Wi-Fi or internet, you know. So I was just wondering, rather than give it away to corporates, because nobody really wants to do that, especially when you've created something that's enabling their business. You know, I think it's good to put some sort of a roadmap in place to take some of it back, and if not for yourselves, to make sure it goes for something better than the corporates would have actually spent the money on themselves.
There's a lot of opportunity for consulting, definitely with the corporates, but as a non-profit, the Ethereum Foundation will continue to operate as such.
Still non-profit, just you donate. You know, that would still be considered.
I don't see us ever having any income that trumps our expenses. Like, I mean, we only go red. Like, it's all we do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like we just get red and redder. So, yeah.
For your service in doing that.
Yeah, no problem. So no, we actually plan. I mean, we actually propose the Ethereum. I mean, we want the foundation to eventually have an expiry date. Is that still what we're feeling? Okay, all right. Sorry. So yeah, no. I mean, eventually, you know, when the money runs out, you know, the party will be over, and we'll get like real jobs.
When the party's over, and again, this is for all of you, because everybody has a different career path. What would you each like to do next? Like, what is your passion at the moment that you're looking at something going, oh, when this is finished, I'd like to get into that?
I'll probably write my blog more.
Justin asked me this the other day. I said maybe open up a coffee shop that accepts crypto.
Can I sit in the coffee shop and write blog articles?
I mean, I'm a builder. I think I'll be building for a long time. I guess if the consensus layer is like totally done, which I don't think will be true for the next 10 years maybe, then it might make sense to move to the application layer. I mean, one specific application that I've been thinking about a little bit recently is stablecoins. I mean, they've been extremely popular on Ethereum, and I think there's an opportunity to make them significantly better than they are currently. So I'm just thinking about this as a hobby.
Decentralized oracles is a big one too.
Yeah, maybe found another application there that really fit in the real world after the scalability, scaling problem are solved.
So you said that about 10 years on we might still be building, and then the other approach is we hope to step away from it. If we were to have a bear market and that ETH Foundation funds were getting really low, sort of what would you do? And then on the flip side, if we have another bull market, you guys have started to give out more grants recently. Is that just trying to find the balance? And do you think you're going to be more generous to the good projects than you have been in the past, maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. And we do have capital reserves that are not ETH. And so we can continue to operate even in a even worse bear market. But yes, because we do hold ETH, we do have to strike the balance between the market conditions and the amount that we're able to fund the community.
Speaking of bear markets, at current, do you think it looks like we could be coming out of it and maybe into the crypto spring?
And who knows? I mean, I've been terrible at predicting these things, so.
I know we all have.
Did any of you guys take out a CPD and ETH was under $100? There they go.
On 100, maybe not.
I know you guys don't come from the marketing world and you're not thinking commercially because you're always loving what you do. But if you did have a marketing person, let's say, for example, like one of your competitors that you mentioned earlier, do you think that would increase the price of Ethereum on the exchanges if you had someone that was constantly pushing out reasons as to why to buy and what the future of it means for businesses in the physical world?
We need the ether for
I don't know.
ourselves.
Yeah,
I don't know. Telling people they need to buy Ether is not really like our style.
No. And we want to build long-term value for the blockchain and the ecosystem, and that's going to happen over time, not in short-term price pumps.
Okay.
I think there's also no shortage of people out there doing that on their own accord, right?
Right?
I'd like to hear your view on Bitcoin's, from your perspective, the value proposition of Bitcoin, and perhaps, I guess it'd be cool to hear if you think that how strong it is in that position for the longer term.
The meme value of Bitcoin is very high. Like, people have definitely bought into the meme of like whatever it is because it was the first of what it is. I don't really know beyond that, and I don't know how strong that meme will last or how long that meme will last.
You mean the store of value meme or something
Yeah, the
else?
store of value meme, the king of crypto meme, the it's first and thus better meme, the gold thing.
Things I'm watching, I mean, one of them is Bitcoin Cash. And price-wise, it seems to have recovered a lot from its slump recently, but also technology-wise, it seems like they're beating Bitcoin to integrating Schnorr signatures, which was just like super out of the blue surprising. So, I mean, they like. It's like maybe 2 years ago you might have thought that it's just like jokers, but there seems to be real technical talent there. There also another thing is, of course, just the viability of like proof of work as a class of thing in the long term, especially in the context of the issuance phasing out. Because if you look at right now, right, the ratio between daily Bitcoin issuance, which is about $7 million, and actually right now it's about 9, but when I last checked the figures, it was $7 million for issuance and about $150,000 for a day for transaction fees. And so there's this kind of factor of 50 ratio where it could potentially just decrease by that amount. And if you look at cryptocurrencies that have 50 times less mining on them than Bitcoin, then that's getting close to, say, Ethereum Classic, which has been 51% attacked already. So it's like, will it not be an issue? Will they grin and bear the 51% attacks? Will they implement hybrid proof of stake? Will they break the 21 million? That'll be interesting.
They won't break the 21 million.
No. I mean, I'm definitely. If I had to like bet on like hybrid proof of stake versus breaking the 21 million, I definitely choose hybrid proof of stake.
Yeah. Yes, I think they would do.
Interesting.
So
I think they'd issue like a secondary token, so you have the 21 million Bitcoins, and then you have this other thing.
Oh, maybe so.
The other one is miners like actively collude to push fees really high.
A lot of these things seem like it's very surprising. We talk about like Ethereum Classic in a little bit. Like, so I remember when I first joined the foundation, I thought of Bitcoin as like the opponent. This is the one we got to beat, and I thought that was kind of zero sum between Ethereum and BTC, and I no longer think that. And so I mean, it's kind of surprising how quickly things. I mean, I don't know, like people you think will someone be your opponent, they turn out not to be. And so I think for a lot of these things, it's just kind of wait and see. And these things like change within the span of like a year, and it's like wow, like Ethereum Classic went from I don't know like the unruly like the redheaded stepchild in the corner. To I guess being slightly less redheaded and a little more productive. Yeah, and that's really like just like a year. So these things seem to change a lot.
Did you guys see the report by Delphi Digital about proof of stake rewards maybe being a bit too low at the start? Would you increase those? And it's do you see ETH changing a bit more? Does it need to be a store of value as well?
The numbers we gave for issuance are definitely not final. The other thing is that I looked at their estimates for operating expenses, and like they did seem a bit high. So it seemed like like one of the things that I think they missed was that the like operating costs of adding one extra shard are less than the costs of just spinning up a node in the first place. So we have definitely read the report and take it seriously, but I think in terms of the concrete results, we also want to wait for like, the test nets to come out and get better ideas of what these cost numbers actually look like.
Right, and to put it in context, the issuance to validators, you have two things that are kind of at odds with each other for the community. You have the issuance to validators to encourage validation, and then the total issuance, the total like inflation. And you're trying to find a balance between the two such that you can encourage adequate validation, but have low inflation because that's something very valued by the community. And the metrics do, although say a number might be at 10 million ETH validating, there's a 2% or 3% return. This number is in flux depending on the amount of ETH validating, so it will find an equilibrium even if it's not the target that we're targeting.
I might ask if Ethereum achieves this scale through the beacon and the sharding technology side of things, what is the impact that will have on sidechains like Plasma?
I mean, you can do plasma on top of sharding, and then you get double quadratic scalability.
I mean, realistically, sharding won't be sufficient for the majority of use cases, and so you need to be sophisticated in the sense that you need to build these layer 2 anyway. So all the research work that's being done right now is super critical.
Yeah, they're complementary. I think probably by definition, layer 2 is always going to be cheaper. No matter how cheap your layer 1 is, layer 2 is going to be cheaper. And so there's always going to be the trade-off between the two.
I mean, certainly for the foreseeable future anyway.
And also from a UX standpoint, layer 2 can provide like unique selling points.
Yeah,
so instant confirmations or no gas or other things.
With that, I know I was really surprised when I read about ZK Snarks, how much that can improve scalability. Was that like a surprise to you guys? And I don't think that's something that's been pushed out to the public enough, how much that they alone can increase scalability.
The existence of the technology was definitely a surprise to me. I'm like, wow, you can do that?
Yeah, and it definitely a few years ago was pushed as this privacy thing, I think kind of in parallel with Zcash. And so it's taken time for the community to digest that, and then to digest the fact that you can do all sorts of other things with it, specifically with scalability.
Mm-hmm. But I'd say, yeah, scalability is still underrated and privacy overrated.
What's the scalability side of it?
That you can prove that some like arbitrarily complex calculation with some input got some particular results in a way that proof can be verified like, extremely quickly, potentially like much more quickly than running the original computation. So instead of everyone verifying a really complex thing, like one person makes a proof and everyone else verifies a simple thing.
Alright, so this is something a bit different of Mimblewimble, whatever, which is roll up.
I mean, Mimblewimble is an example of special purpose zero knowledge proofs, so they're not succinct proofs, I think, right? Like in Mimblewimble, like the amount of time it takes to verify the proofs is still kind of similar to the amount of time it takes to create them, I believe. Well, actually, no, in Mimblewimble does have that proof aggregation stuff, which I guess is kind of a special purpose succinct proof, but here we're talking about like general purpose succinct proofs, like any program you can write.
Right.
But if you think fundamentally in terms of computing resources, these succinct proving systems basically remove the bottleneck for computation. So verification just takes constant time for an arbitrary statement. And then in terms of bandwidth, you can kind of separate the data into two parts. You kind of have like fundamental data that needs to be communicated, and then you have the so-called proofs or witnesses, which can then be compressed. And oftentimes in systems, the data can be very small, but then the witness can be very large. So maybe one example might be if you make a transaction, you can specify who the sender is, and you can specify the recipient is, and specify the amounts you're sending, but then the signature might be quite large. And so you can separate these two things and compress the proof size, the witness part, to constant size, to 0.